I'm not much of a scientist when it comes to these devices, though. First of all, I want to thank the entire country of Bhutan. My first time here, it's very beautiful. The eminences that we heard this morning, all of them, the Sangha, all of my co-presenters and the audience. Particular thanks to Ian Baker, who made this possible for me. And after many hours of flying and jet lag and little sleep, this will be a bit of a discovery process for me as well. I do remember that I knocked out this PowerPoint a few days ago. I can't tell you how many. But anyway, I'm going to be running through a lot of scientific material, although it's not complicated. It's mainly statements in the slides. And the theme, the point of this is, and I'm just going to state this out now. This is basically the whole thing, what I'm going to say now, and the details are what's going to follow. That there are claims in advanced Vajrayana traditions that, or let's say Vajrayana traditions, that adept practitioners of meditation, which involves observational meditation as well as visualization meditation, the whole gamut of forms of meditation, that these practitioners become capable of perceiving the universe at in its fundamental components on an atomic level, what you call the fabric of the universe. And I'm going to make a case for that using findings from neuroscience, a field called psychophysics, biophysics, and other related fields. So I'm going to be showing you statements by very highly regarded, usually conservative scientists in these fields that have, in the last few years really, even with, excuse me, within the last couple of years, have discovered that human senses actually extend down to the level of the atom, of the photon, onto nanoscales. These are unexpected findings from science. And however, for hundreds of years, the claims have been, you know, somebody was, actually Ian was mentioning, the self-definition of secret is because not many people go down this path, so it doesn't get talked about so much, but you can see it clearly in texts that the intention of some of the exercises that get up towards the level of the ability to be able to perceive emptiness involve being able to see atoms of matter, of light, and of space. So look at what I'm going to show now, but this is the basic idea, if I can work this thing. And I can't. Can I get a little help? So to make the slides go forward. Okay. I'm a theoretical scientist and not a practical one. So that's all my titles and everything. By the way, I strove to get into the mainstream of science to a high level because I had a conviction that what I encountered in learning about these yoga traditions was true, and I always started with that premise. So I deliberately try, in order to get that into the mainstream, I had to, be a part of the mainstream. So what you see here is a conference that I led with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Professor Thurman and a number of leading scientists. This was on longevity yoga, and the book that's shown on your left was published in one of the world's leading scientific publications. It was all the papers, but this has been my strategy. So kind of recapping what I said already in slightly different words. I'm going to read the slides. The human sensorium, when properly transformed through training, and most importantly, when properly deployed in meditation and yoga, is capable of direct perception of multiple key phenomena on microscopic, nanoscale, atomic, and photonic scales, achieving detection criteria commensurate with that of state-of-the-art manufactured technical devices. In other words, human beings have the potential to perceive a number of phenomena as well as any human-made device. And you will see leading scientists that aren't interested in meditation making these kinds of statements in what I'm going to show you. And the assertion has been borne out by recent research in these disciplines that were mentioned already. I'm not going to go into how they see on a macroscopic level or the mathematics of it in this presentation. So Vajrayana Buddhist yogic science, and to me, and I hope at least starting for you, you will see that Vajrayana practice is a scientific practice. It's about research and discovery. I mean, there are beliefs around it, but the yogis in the labs, in the caves and so forth, are doing research. Vajrayana Buddhist yogic science, according to textual sources and commentaries, makes similar claims. The key term here is yogic direct perception. In other words, normal human beings have direct perception, but it requires yogic training to achieve this. And the terms they use are the ability to perceive minute particles. I'm quoting now from text by Anne Klein, which is translation of Gelugpa principles and Gelugpa texts. Partless particles of matter, energy, space, and time. So this is atomic, is what they're talking about. The fundamental particles. This assertion has been borne out by recent research in these disciplines that I mentioned. So, catching up on my jet lag here, and okay. Yeah, partly catching up. So let's start with the ability to perceive a single photon of light. And this research has been going on since the 1940s. Can a human being perceive the minutest particle of light, which is a photon? Decades of studies had mixed results. Most of them said one or a few. Most recently, really high-level scientists from Rockefeller University, the University of Vienna, these are physicists and biophysicists, found that it's unquestionable. A human being can perceive one photon of light. That's the minutest particle of light possible to view.
You have 5 minutes left.
5 minutes? Oh, boy. All right, so I have to go a little faster. These are the equations that describe this visual process, which is a quantum mechanical process. And those equations describe the quantum mechanical process of single photon detection. I'm going to jump now into, these statements I'll read quickly. This is from Reviews in Modern Physics, which is a mainstream high-level physics journal. The human visual system, beginning with the photoreceptor cells of the retina, are nearly perfect photon counters, which equal or exceed the performance, I'm going to say, of human-made detectors, including solid-state silicon detectors and photomultiplier tubes and charge-coupled devices. Another one from a leading physicist at Princeton Institute of Advanced Study. The cells of the human retina and visual system are nearly perfect biological photon counters built of protein, lipid, carbohydrate, and water. And human visual sensitivity approaches the limits set by the division of light into discrete photons and the statistical fluctuation in photon absorption. And these fluctuations are unavoidable and impose a fundamental limit to visual fidelity that no imaging device can exceed. So in other words, we're talking about the quantum mechanical limits of light. Now I'm going to go into, well, in order to do this, the participants who are not meditators have to be completely still for long periods of time in a dark, adapted environment. And what is actually happening is that they're put into a simulated meditation situation. The complete stillness, the acute attention has to be paid and maintained for a while because a number of photons and a number of different combinations of light are shown, and they have to discriminate it. So this whole thing of attention and stillness is really a meditative state, although researchers had no idea about that. But meditators actually do this in dark retreats, and they're looking explicitly and specifically to see if they can perceive single atoms of light, and they do it. So I've already explained that. Now I'm going to talk about how a human being can hear vibrations that have an amplitude that's less than the diameter of an atom. So again, this comes from another, high-level researcher at Rockefeller University, which has more Nobel Prize winners than any other university in the world. The amplitude less than the diameter of an atom, and so forth. Again, stillness is required, and acute attention. So I have to go through this quickly. We can detect signals with intensities less than 1/1000th that of an atmospheric pressure. We have these senses. I wanted to talk about human tactile sense. This was just discovered a few years ago. We can feel things on a nanoscale. This is work that's done in a very, these are done by very good scientists, very high-level scientists. They're not meditators and they're not interested in meditation. They have no knowledge of this. But here we see discrimination extends to the nanoscale. Is that my time?
No.
Oh, it's somebody's cell phone.
That's someone's mobile.
Extends to the nanoscale within billions of a meter. So, and then the last thing here is on the ability to smell, where the new model is about quantum electron tunneling vibration into the nasal receptors of the nose. And up until a few years ago, it was thought, well, humans could discriminate about 10,000 different olfactory stimuli. Now they find over 1 trillion. So we have these incredibly exquisite senses that reach actually to the level of the fabric of the universe. which is what the yogis have been telling us in Vajrayana science. I go into here a little bit, I don't have time.
You should try to conclude. Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
about the ability to perceive electromagnetic energy. And now we're finding this, the biofield. So, oh, I got two in there. I'm going to have to skip through most of these. I think you got my general picture. All of this will be in the published article, and anybody that has any questions can see me during the course of this. What happens is, through the yogic exercises, can I just wrap up with one statement?
Stick to it.
Through the yogic exercises, what happens is there's a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. And by actually observing, this is why I talk about observational meditation. For example, when a sand mandala is constructed, the monks actually stare at the sand or the powder. They meditate on it. And what happens when that's going on is their retina and their visual cortex becomes tuned to a level of hyperacuity. And the more and more they do this, the more precise their senses become. And then they enter into this world in stillness where the microscopic becomes accessible. And that's the key there. So I'm sorry, I have to wrap up. So my last statement, we refer to it, I have a co-author on this, Ryan Castle. He coined the term anthrotechnology, as we propose elsewhere, including in that book that I had a picture of. The modern Western scientific and technological revolution discussed by the Dalai Lama and many others, he quotes in my book, in which Western science has been able to extend the capacity of the senses to degrees unimaginable in earlier times. Actually had to correct him, it was a bit awkward. It was preceded by another scientific technological revolution, which coincided with the emergence of Vajrayana Buddhist virtuoso yogic meditation. And I coined the term for that, a soft tissue, high-tech capacity that is potential in all of us, but realized through these practices. Thank you.